Okay, let's go to Matthew chapter 17, and we're going to start at verse 1. Matthew chapter 17, verse 1. Pay attention, please. I pray you to read it with favor.
Pay attention.
Matthew chapter 17, verse 1. Read it.
And after 6 days, Jesus taketh Peter, James, and John, his brother, and bringeth them up into an high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them.
And was what?
Transfigured before them.
Okay, so that means he changed. Okay, he changed in glory. That means he actually his spirit left his body. Okay, actually his spirit took over his body. Okay, the flesh just disappeared. I mean, like the body was laying around anywhere, and his angelic form was able to be seen by those apostles. Do everybody understand that? So they seen him in his glory. They seen him in his immortal body. The flesh that he was encased in disappeared. Read it one more time.
Verse 2. And was transfigured before them.
And was transfigured before them. Read on.
And his face did shine as the sun.
Because that's what it is when the spirit is comparable to fire. Okay, it's on fire. Okay, so it's an illuminated light. Okay, so what they seen is that they seen the image, they seen his face, they seen his spiritual body, and it was shining. It was shining. Read on.
And his raiment was white as the light.
Come on.
And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elias talking with him.
So now they see this, and now they're able to see invisible things. The invisible things became visible. And Moses, okay, you know how long ago Moses lived? He lived 2,000 years ago. Now this is the time of Christ. Now showing you that there is life continues after your time on earth. Moses showed up, and they knew it was Moses. They just knew it by spirit. That's Moses. They sat there and seen God in his glory, the Son of God, Jesus Christ in his glory. Then they seen one of the greatest prophets Israel ever had, Moses, walking up and talking to Christ. Shalom. Abanawa Barak the Shalom, sir. Okay, came with the utmost respect. They knew who they was dealing with. Moses knew he was dealing with Christ. Read on.
And Elias.
And then Elijah, another one of them prophets, okay? The one that the Lord didn't even allow to die. He took him up into heaven. When Elijah came to the Lord and wanted to die, and the Lord came to him and said, what thou doest here, Elijah? Elijah got scared because he realized if I asked the Lord to die, he might kill me. So the Lord showed him a series of things, and to show him, I'm not angry with you. The Lord showed him an earthquake and said, I'm not in this earthquake. In other words, he was showing Elijah, ask me what you want to ask me. I'm not upset with you. But Elijah kept refusing to ask the question. He was, I'm here because Israel tore down your altars. And he actually came to ask to die. And the Lord wanted him to ask, because the Lord was going to say, I'm not going to let you die like regular. I'm a translate. You're just going to go up into heaven like Enoch did. This is Elijah the prophet. So you got Jesus Christ in his immortal being. You got Moses and you got Elijah the prophet, and all this was being done, and it was being done in the sight of the apostles, Peter, James, and John. They all witnessed this. They were eyewitnesses to this. This happened. It's not fairy tale. It wasn't a vision. This is something that was actually happening right in front of them. Read on.
Into verse 3.
Come on.
Talking with him.
Doing what?
Talking with him.
Read on.
Then answered Peter and said unto Jesus, Lord, it is good for us to be here.
Okay, so they was like, okay, we happy that we're here because, all of this holiness that has manifested in front of us, who's going to set up the memorials for this holiness to bear witness that this actually took place in this spot. Y'all ain't going to set up memorials for yourselves, so let us set up the memorials for, it's a good thing that we're here so we can mark this spot and say this is where Jesus was manifested. He was shown as the Son of God in the spirit, in his spiritual form. Moses came and spoke with him. Elijah came and spoke with him. Read on.
If thou wilt, let us make here 3 tabernacles, one for thee, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah.
Okay, so they was taken up in awe at what they were seeing, and they misspoke. And this is, again, this is why the Lord, believe me, God's Spirit is on me. Believe me. Listen to me. Misspeaking can get you in a whole lot of trouble. You ask Moses, okay? The scripture says he spoke ill-advisedly with his lips. This is Moses, the friend of God, the one that God met with face to face. Do y'all understand me? And you know what the Lord did? He told me, look at the promised land. You're not going in it. Because you did not sanctify me at the waters of Meribah. Okay, you don't get to be silly with the Lord our God, okay? You don't get to just come up any kind of way. Do everybody understand that? You got to be very careful with how you speak. So the apostles, they don't forgot their place. They put Moses and Elijah on the same level as Christ. Let's put something for all 3 of you. No, Moses, again, what did John the Baptist say? John the Baptist says, I'm not even worthy to untie the man's shoelaces. You don't ask to put something there with him and on his left. If you in Israel and you understand the order of things, that there's an order of things, you know that everything has to stay in its place. So now while they said that, right away, God the Father interjected. That caused God, again, God the Father is almost never heard. Jesus Christ said, none of you have heard his voice at any time. He's given us more understanding that the whole time, from Genesis to Revelations, that it was him, it was Jesus Christ that was dealing with us. God the Father. But guess what? They heard his voice now because they stepped out of line. And while they were asking to build tabernacles for all 3, this is what happened. Read on.
Verse 5.
Come on.
While he yet spake, behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud. Okay, the cloud is a chariot, is known as a chariot of Israel. That's another breakdown, more precepts to give us understanding on that. It's the vehicle of the angels that they use to transport themselves in long distances. Okay, the angels can appear and reappear, and the Lord has he has an order to how certain things is going to be done. He showed the prophet Ezekiel these vehicles of the angels, which is the chariots of Israel. And what it is Ezekiel described it as a cloud with fire enfolding in itself. So what this is talking about is a huge flying vehicle. Everybody understand that? And the voice of God was in that vehicle. Okay, and the voice of God is everywhere. Don't let me start getting into this. Don't let me start, okay? The voice of God was in that vehicle, but not just in that vehicle. And Ezekiel also, he described this to us, how the angels came out of the vehicle and still was in the vehicle. See, I'm starting to mess y'all up. Y'all see? You see? Whoever ain't been studying is lost right now. In the vehicle, out the vehicle, with the vehicle. Everybody understand that? Okay. So a voice came out of the vehicle, the chariot. Read on. Which said, "This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him." God the Father said the focus is not Moses, the focus is not Elijah, the focus was always Jesus Christ. Okay, you don't put nothing on his level. My son is Jesus Christ. Do everybody understand that? Everybody got that? So he was correcting the apostles, okay? And he was yelling at them. He yelled at them, okay? You're going to find out that after he said this, the apostles was on the floor covering their heads. And Christ went back into the flesh and had to come and comfort them and say, it's okay, you're not in that much trouble. Okay? Read on. Verse 6, and when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and was sore afraid. Okay, because they were getting yelled at. Okay, it wasn't no voice that came out and said, "This is my beloved son, in who I am well pleased." Okay? Read on. And Jesus came and touched them and said, Arise, and be not afraid.
Okay, so now he came and touched them and said, Arise and be not afraid, okay? So remember, they still in awe of this incident. Moses, Elijah, Christ in his immortal being, okay? God the Father comes in a big cloud that casts a shadow over a huge mountain, okay? That chariot was huge, okay? Okay, read on.
Verse 8, and when they had lifted up their eyes, they saw no man save Jesus only.
So after being yelled at, and they on the floor like this, and Christ told them, be not afraid, and touched them, and when they looked back to see what was going on, Christ was back in the flesh there by himself. Read on.
And as they came down from the mountain. So
now they're walking down from the mountain. And these apostles, they just got yelled at, but they know what they just saw, and they got a whole bunch of questions. But they don't know if it's the right time to ask these questions. They already done asked something stupid and got cut. So as they walking down the mountain, read on.
Jesus charged them, saying, Tell the vision to no man.
Yeah, there's not going to be no memorial of this. And don't let nobody know what you just saw, okay? At that time, this is for you, and this was for us to let us to give us some information that, again, I'm going to be bringing out right now. Read on.
Until the Son of Man be risen again from the dead.
Read on.
And his disciples asked him, saying, Why then say the scribes that Elijah must first come?
Okay, so now they're confused because they seen Elijah the prophet come and talk with Jesus Christ. And Elijah the prophet was in his spiritual form. Then they went back to the prophecy, which shows they knew the Bible. You got to know the prophecy. They went back to the prophecy that said before the day of the Lord, before the Lord comes, the Lord was going to send Elijah the prophet first. So now they're confused. They're like, well, the Lord is here in the flesh, but Elijah the prophet is up there in the spirit. They have a dilemma. Guess what? They ain't got no unbelief. All they got is a question. They need understanding on this. So the question is, why did the scribes say Elijah must come first? Good question. If Elijah was in the spirit and Jesus Christ is still here in the flesh, that means Elijah, according to their mind, is in the spirit. So why did it say he will come before we see you in the flesh? That's in Malachi. Okay, right? And here's what Jesus Christ's answer was to them. Read.
Verse 11, and Jesus answered and said unto them, Elijah truly shall first come.
Okay, so he's telling them, again, that shows just because you have a misunderstanding or don't understand something, that's why you got to always talk about what you don't understand. Don't mean that is not an answer for it. Elijah shall truly come first. Let's get the prophecy of Elijah coming in Malachi. Chapter 4, I believe it is. Elijah the prophet that lived way a long time ago. Malachi chapter 4, and we're going to read verse 5. Malachi chapter 4, verse 5. Read that for me, please.
Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet.
Okay, this is before the birth of Jesus Christ. This is way before the birth of Jesus Christ that this was prophesied to happen. So they knew these prophecies. They knew that when they see the Lord, that they were supposed to see Elijah the prophet first. Okay, so now they knew God was there in the flesh, that Jesus Christ had manifested in the flesh, and they just seen Elijah in the spirit, so they confused now. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet, read on.
Before the coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord.
Okay, so the great and dreadful day of the Lord is talking about his second coming. Everybody understand that? Right. That's not talking about Christ's first coming. It's talking about Christ's second coming. So that's why Jesus Christ said Elijah truly shall come first, because he knew what scripture they was referring to. So you get it, how when somebody asks a question, you got to ask it you got to answer that question according to their question. Their question was about this scripture. So Christ he ain't get into first Elijah was here already. He didn't get into that first. He got into, according to the scripture you referencing, he truly shall come first. That's before the great and dreadful day of God. That's before when Christ come back in his second coming. Do everybody understand that? Read on.
And he shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers.
Okay, so let's go back to Matthew chapter, what was that, 17 we was in, or 20, what was that?
Matthew chapter 17.
Matthew chapter 17, what verse was we in?
Verse 11.
Matthew chapter 17, verse 11. Read it again.
And Jesus answered and said unto them, Elijah truly shall first come.
He truly shall first come. Read on.
And restore all things.
And restore all things. Just like we just read in the scriptures, right? In the Old Testament, correct? Read on.
But I say unto you.
He said, but now I'm going to let you know something. So first of all, he already let us know a lot. Elijah the prophet has to come again. So yeah, the Lord bring back his prophets. God. He said, but I also say unto you, read on.
That Elijah is come already.
But he's telling them that Elijah came already. See, I mean, the Lord, Elijah was coming more than once. He was already.